Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we dive into the warp as we talk about Khorne's Realm. If you guys have any other suggestions for topics of Warhammer 40K that you guys would like us to create a video for, please comment down below. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we post Warhammer 40K content every single day. With that said, let's get into 40 Facts About the Realm of Khorne. Though the demon-filled battlefields of Khorne's domain in the realm of chaos are many, and each is vast beyond reckoning, there is more to this blasted land than just blood-soaked plains populated with warring demons. Violence and despair are constant traveling companions for any unfortunate soul cursed to briefly wander there. Each foreboding hellscape leads to another more grim than the last. At the heart of it all, Khorne watches from his skull throne, surveying his lands and pitting his forces against any convenient foe, be they fellow demons or foolhardy invaders who seek to wage a doomed war on the Lord of Battle. It is a realm unlike any other. Storms rage perpetually across crimson skies, sending gale-force blasts seemingly composed of pure rage, whipping across the plains and mountains. These angry winds tear into the land itself and rip up great chunks of stone and blood-drenched earth, tossing them violently back down hundreds of leagues away in explosions of raw destruction. The land, for its part, fights back against the brutal assault of the heavens. Earthquakes send gouts of molten brass skyward, burning up the storm clouds, temporarily ending their rage until the winds regather to build their assault anew. New mountains erupt from flat lands in an instant, some thrusting into the sky like gigantic living swords, others acting as shields against the advance of the storms. Rivers of boiling blood crisscross the hellish landscape, dividing the realm into territories over which rival bloodthirsters wage war. The blood flows are not content to allow the conquered lands to rest idle. From deep below the ground, new rivers strike through the surface, splitting the lands as easily as an axe opens the bloated gut of a lazy bureaucrat. Each crimson flow sucks down all that once occupied the space, including any demon legions that might have been marching there. As with its war against the sky, the land retaliates, pushing the banks of the river to close in upon themselves. The brass-spewing volcanoes send liquid metal into the rivers, evaporating the blood within and sealing the wounds with burning fury. Each piece of the realm of battle consistently fights to obliterate the other. Each acts like a living servant of Khorne, wanting to prove to the master of the land that it is the most worthy of his reward. A visitor to this nightmare realm would surely be driven mad knowing that every rock, every breeze, and every drop of what should be water is an enemy, looking to kill him with just as much purpose, desire, and violence as the multitude of demons of the blood god inhabiting the land. To witness the carnage of the realm of Khorne is to know the conflict is a living, breathing thing, and not just a curse that troubles the worlds of men, machine, and aliens. It is to know an eternal truth, and thus to know despair. At the outmost edge of this domain, there lies a ring of volcanoes that scholars of the profane have come to call Khorne's Rage. Reaching hundreds of miles into the air, they belch their thick black smoke and molten brass skyward, creating an impenetrable border that can neither be seen through nor navigated. Darkness and the ash hangs there, lit ominously from beneath the gouts of flame that incinerate the loose debris along the sides of the volcanoes. Within the ash clouds, blood storms roil. Red lightning dances across the clouds as thunder cracks and rolls, like the snap of bloodthirsters' whips, followed by the sound of the hooves of 1,000 charging juggernauts. These peaks stand as bastions against invaders. Their toxic ash and scorching brass flows enough to deter all but the most determined of foes. Those who are arrogant or foolish enough to make the attempt to cross the tortuous border are met with more than barriers of heat and jagged rock. The very rock and brass of Khorne's Rage rises up to crush the attackers. Pieces of the rock break away from the sides of the mountain, molten brass flowing into them in a hellish semblance of lifeblood. Demons of stone and liquid metal take form, born of rage and defiance. With mindless fury and unadulterated violence, they scorch their foes. Once their grim task is complete, they fall back into lifeless piles, waiting for the call to reform and defend the borders of their master's realm. At the base of the volcanoes are the forges of the lesser furnace demons. In these sweltering workshops, weapons of war are crafted. All manners of axes, swords, hammers, and armor are created to supply the blood god's eternal wars. Here, too, the components of Khorne's demon engines are made. Assembly of these huge constructs of war is conducted elsewhere, but the cogs, blades, housings, and armaments all have their beginnings here, at the foot of Khorne's rage. It is a dangerous place to reside, even by the standards of the rest of the realm. At any moment, a volcano could erupt, flowing the forge with molten brass. It is of no concern to Khorne if a few demons are incinerated in such mishaps. Others rise from the blood pits to take their place, and the forge continues. Despite the risks, the furnace demons are able to take advantage of the dangers of Khorne's rage. Across plains of battle, it is almost exclusively Khorne's own minions that do battle and perish. At the fringes of the realm, other warriors die agonizing, terrible, bloody deaths, using tools of fiendish design and rites that even the most depraved chaos sorcerers would dare to undertake. The masters of the Hellforges enslave the souls of those mortals who would dare invade the blood god's realm and fuse them with the anvils of Khorne. The tormented screams of those eternally imprisoned blend with the ringing and clanging of each falling hammer that strikes the forge. When white-hot metal is placed on the anvil and pounded into form, the bound souls feel the scorching heat. Thus, a new weapon or piece of armor is crafted in the demon forges. It is born to the sound of Khorne's enemies suffering his everlasting wrath. Warp energies, the raw stuff of chaos, constantly swirls across the realm of all the greater powers. Its currents meander seemingly at random, causing mutations within the very land itself, and everyone and everything they touch. In most cases, this power does not linger in any one place for long. There are, however, locations throughout the blood god's treacherous domain where the power of the warp collects and stirs. When this happens, great craters are often gouged into the blasted plains. None can say if it takes moments or millennia for these pits to form, for time is meaningless within the realm of chaos. Eventually the warp storms break apart, sometimes seeping into the very pits they created. When this happens, Khorne commands his minions to intensify their efforts to harvest blood from the mortal world, using the most violent, destructive, and devastating methods they can possibly bring to bear. The souls that perish in such a campaign give their blood to a special dark cause. Their crimson essence is collected in the pit, where it is mixed with molten brass and a measure of Khorne's own murderous bile. The resultant lake is a new blood pit. It is from the blood pits that the new demons of Khorne arise. Bloodletters, furnace demons, and many lesser fiends steadily emerging from the warp, and bile-infused blood ready to do their master's bidding. The soldiers that vomit forth from the pit will be charged from the day of their creation until the day they fail their master in combat, with claiming more blood to refill their pit. Eventually a pit goes dry, but without fail. Soon after it does, a new storm begins to brew, restarting the cycle of bloodshed. Dividing one region of Khorne's realm from another, like jagged crimson scars on the scorched land, are the rivers of blood. These mile-wide flows are filled with the blood of those who have fallen in service to Khorne, be they victims or followers. Nearly all blood that is shed on his behalf finds its way to these canals. The blood itself is so hot to the point of boiling. Steam made of vaporized blood hangs in the air all along the length of the rivers, creating a paleable red cast to the region throughout which they run. Gigantic bubbles rise to the surface, carrying with them occasional remains of something that was unfortunate enough to have fallen into the river. As the bubbles burst, globs of steaming hot blood launch hundreds of feet into the air, coming back to the ground and landing on the shores in splattered patterns that often resemble the spray of an open artery. Thousands of blood rivers cut through the land and end up emptying over a bleak precipice miles high, plunging downward in a waterfall of gore. The land that forms at the base of the wall is larger than any ocean in the mortal realm, and populated with creatures that cannot be. Leviathans of brass and bone swim through the lake, devouring all as they pass. Soaring above the lake, bloodthirsters fight with dragons of pure solid blood. Those that stray too close to the surface of the lake risk being snatched out of the air by the very lake itself, so hungry is it for carnage. Rising waves on the surface take the shape of warriors and do battle, crashing violently into each other and falling back to the surface in a rain of scattered blood. On the far shore of the Lake of Slaughter, the ground is littered with skulls, so many in fact that whatever foundation may lie beneath cannot be touched. For miles these skulls stretch away from the shore, and in the distance there rise a great black wall. This is the outer wall of Khorne's brass citadel. Upon the wall stands guardian demons, with eyes as sharp as their fangs and swords. They watch for any intruder, ready to defend their master to the last. Within the walls, there are thousands of flesh hounds patrolling the skull yard, sniffing out the blood scent of any who dare attempt incursion. In the skies, flying between the outer walls and the inner keeps, elite bloodthirsters listen for sounds of invasion on the wind. It is rare that any force musters the strength to assault the brass fortress, its guardians deterring all but the most foolish of daring of Khorne's rivals from even trying. When the attempt is made, the might of the blood god's personal host is brought to bear with a fury and rage that threatens to rip a hole between realms. While Khorne's brother chaos gods could gain much power should they defeat him in his fortress, the risk of counter-invasion is too great for such wars to be waged without dire cause. It is said that if Khorne himself should rise from his throne and personally go to war against the other dark gods, his favored blade would end them all in one mighty sweep. But such an act would have calamitous results that not even Tzeentch could predict. It is said that Khorne himself once was consumed by such rage that he took up his sword and smote the ground, splitting it asunder for eternity. This fell sword is known by many names, including Warmaker and the End of All Things, and is capable of laying waste to entire worlds with a single blow. Because of this, an uneasy state of balance exists. When Khorne does obliterate the invading armies of his brother gods, they do not exact retribution directly. When the threat is ended, neither does Khorne press the advantage, but rather turn his back towards his inner sanctum and reclaim his place atop the throne of skulls. Thus is the balance maintained in the eternal great game. In the very center of the brass citadel, beyond the bastion stairs and the 8 iron pillars, Khorne watches over all his minions from his seat on the throne of skulls. From there he commands his legions to bring war to a distant corner of the galaxy. Every victory he witnesses leaves him thirsty for more blood. With every defeat, he takes the blood of his failed champion and adds it to the river of his realms. Blood will be his. If he must harvest it from his own minions, so be it. Surrounding the throne on all sides is a mound of skulls that holds Khorne aloof on his perch. Champions and the fallen enemies contribute to the mass of bones. Could these skulls speak, some would tell the tales from before the long war against the corpse emperor of the Imperium, when the Primarch Angron had yet to swear his oath to the blood god. Others would speak of grave mistakes that caused their entire race to fall to the axes of legions of berserkers. The skulls closest to him, those of his favored champions, who have perished in service to their lord after hundreds of violent campaigns, would call out across eternity, once more bellowing their war cry, blood for the blood god. And those were 40 facts about the realm of Khorne. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Link down in the description to learn more about Khorne. If you want to, or if you have any suggestions for other topics of Warhammer 40K that you guys would like me to cover, please comment down below. And then, of course, guys, thank you so much for liking, commenting, and sharing this. By you guys doing that, you help us continue to post Warhammer 40K content. With that said, I'll see you tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.